ever scan my testicles again.
Sorry, you're wondering what?
If you could stay in character as John, don't ever scan my testicles again.
I think I said don't scan my balls.
Yeah.
What, it wasn't good enough for your first time? It was funny, actually, when, one of the great things about working on that show was we had a really wonderful collaborative engagement with the writers and the producers. And if Mike and I had an idea, we would either pitch it to them or just do it and improvise. And through that whole episode, we had kind of a tonal change around skin. That whole concept was something that I pitched to the writers, and they were not like, when one of the producers, they were like, no, I'm not sure about that. That might be going a little, but just do it anyway. And we did it, and they laughed and laughed, and there was a whole debate about it between a few parties down in LA where that was actually going to make it in, but they put it in the edit, and everybody they showed it to just absolutely laughed their asses off. So it stayed in. Thank you for your question.
Hi, Karl.
Hey, how you doing?
Doing good. All right.
Good.
Anyways, all right.
The question just dying to get out.
I'm sorry.
You're all right, bless you.
Anyways, if you had the pleasure of battling any villain, who would it be?
Just within the whole plethora of the universe and creation of everything,
Pretty much.
comic book movie, wow. Any villain? That's a great question. I'd go for Roy Batty from Blade Runner.
Hi, Karl.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Out of my Vulcan mind. And my other favorite answer, worse. I got a little head, not that I'll tell you, I had a little head cold thing going on, but apart from that, I'm great.
Awesome. So my question is, when you were auditioning for Star Trek, what was the audition process like, and what did you do when you found out that you got the part?
Oh, thank you. That's a great question. Well, you see, I found out that JJ was rebooting it, and I really wanted to be a part of it. So I took a bunch of meetings with some people involved from execs at Paramount, and then I went and met with JJ, and I really thought that I'd blown the meeting because I went in there and sat down, and after a little chit chat for a couple of minutes, he said, well, have you got any questions? And I said, yeah, what's the story? I'm really interested to know, what's the story of the movie? Well, what are you doing? And he's like, I can't tell you. And I sat there and went, well, I guess I got no questions. Well, it was great meeting you. And I walked out and I was just thinking, dumb guy. I could have thought of a question. Anything. What do you put in your hair? Anyway, so a couple of weeks after that, we got an invitation from JJ to audition for the part of Bones, and I was really thrilled about that. I watched Star Trek as a kid, and I recently watched the box set with my kids. And so I went in there, and I didn't, have to re-watch what the late great DeForest Kelley had done. I felt that just through years of watching it by osmosis that I understood the character and I understood the relationships and the archetypes, and went in there, and so I started doing the audition, and then halfway through the audition I hear this laughter, and I'm thinking, what the hell's going on? And I'm desperately trying to remember my lines, and I'm thinking, what's so funny? And I realized it was JJ laughing at me, and it really put me off. So I hadn't done theatre in a long time, and I was really struggling to actually finish the scene, but I did. And he was like, oh my God, that's it, that's Bones. And he turned back to Brian Burke, one of the producers, and the casting director, and they were all nodding their heads profusely, and I was like, I think that was good. And he goes, oh, well, I guess you could better do it again. Like, well, we got you here. So I did it again. I walked out of that building, and I felt phenomenal. I felt great. You know, it's one of those points in your career where you just feel like you've done the best job that you can possibly do. And we had a pretty good indication within about an hour and a half that we'd got it. And it was probably one of the points of my career where I guess have been most satisfied of what I've achieved. And naturally we celebrated. But then the interesting part, the hard part came, and that's actually doing the role. And you know, I have to confess, in approaching that role, you know, it was some anxious times for me because you know, obviously, I felt that as a fan of Star Trek, that it was important for me that the character of Bones be recognizably Bones. And so that meant it was sort of a challenge of trying to identify and incorporate the very essence of what the wonderful DeForest Kelley had done so well for so long, and try and infuse that into a younger version of what the character is, and then also do my take on it, because what the mistake would have been to try to do some sort of carbon copy imitation. That would have been a mistake, but for me, the challenge was I wasn't quite sure of where that line was, but thankfully I was in great hands, and you know, and it was a completely different experience making the second film, I think, for all of us, because we'd had that validation and that success that the first film went over so well, and everybody loved these characters, and that's, I mean, it's a testament to JJ and the writers. They made sure that they made Star Trek accessible, and they made it character-driven, which to me was always the key of the success of the series. You know, it was a cult of personality for me over science fiction. You know, you tuned in every week to see how, you know, that crew, the often dysfunctional crew, had to learn to work together to overcome their differences in order to defeat the common adversary. And that's one of the things that JJ and co just absolutely nailed. So thank you very much for your question. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi. I just want to say you're very pretty. So I've heard that you really like doing impressions, and I was wondering if we could hear some of your best impressions.
Some of my best impressions. Yeah, sure. Okay. Here's a tree. I can't do it, Carl. I can't do it. Stop. Are you out of your fucking mind? Terrible. All right. I don't so much you're doing, but it irritates me.
Hello.
Schindler's List.
So I was just wondering, what mannerisms and personality traits did you take from the original portrayal of Bones and put into your own portrayal? And what sort of research did you do in order to get it just right?
Well, that's a very difficult question for me to answer, and I probably feel like I partly answered it in the previous question before, and I don't want to talk too much in depth about it because I feel that when you see the next film that you're all going to be very conscious of, that did it. So, you know, as JJ says, a magician never reveals his secrets, but I will say, based purely on the character that was in the television series and the movies, what was important to me was the fact that the character of Leonard McCoy is one of the most altruistic, compassionate advocates of of humanity and life, and there is nothing that he won't do to protect his friends and his colleagues, or to help anybody, that he can as part of his function as a doctor. And the thing that I love is that it's all wrapped up in this kind of irascible shell that he's got the most appalling bedside manner. And to me, that's always an appeal. And on a sort of going forward, I certainly hope that I too get the opportunity to play some more depth to the character and get some scenes that really kind of showcase his friendship, particularly with Kirk, who because he was really written to be part of Kirk's conscience and a conciliary, and I would like to see more of that on a forward-going basis. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Hey.
In this case, for Almost Human, as I was watching it, I noticed that between the episodes, the overarching character development seemed to bounce back and forth. One episode, John would be really buddy-buddy with Dorian, then he's back to being just a machine. And then I found out that episodes 2 through 10 didn't really air in the intended order. I was just wondering what your opinion is on that.
Yeah, no, you're right. You did right, and there's a reason for that. The network streamed them out of order. We got about 4 episodes in and realized collectively that we needed a tonal shift. Skin was really the first episode that we shot that we feel like that's the show. So accordingly, it meant that we had to go back and do more work on the first 3 episodes. And so I think that was part of the reason why there was a jump in the order that they were screened. And that's very common in television. Not all television, obviously, but that's the way it rolled for us. And I'm grateful for it. I think we've got a better show, but unfortunately, one of the consequences is what you were talking about, is certain inconsistencies in the evolution of the relationships between the characters because they were shown out of order. Yeah, thank you for your question. That's TV for you.
Hello.
Hey, how are you? Oh my gosh, look at this guy. Give this guy a hand. Awesome Dredd costume, my friend. Uniform, sorry. Awesome.
I've heard that there could be a Dredd 2. Have you and the producers gotten together and thought that you could make mini-series, like 90-minute episodes, that could be aired on Netflix, kind of like Sherlock?
Oh wow, that's a great question. I'm sure those conversations have happened on some level, none that I've been privy to. The thing about Dredd, I'm so proud of that movie, and thank you. It was a movie that didn't achieve what it should have at the box office, and there's a bunch of reasons for that, which I won't go into. But what I am so heartened about, and what so many of my colleagues who worked on that film, I just, feel so grateful for the fact that it's really found this wonderful cult status, that people have come to find it subsequent to its theatrical release, and the DVD numbers went through the roof. And so that was interesting, because I think that made the financiers look at it and go, okay, well, this actually could be viable. If we made a sequel at the right number, it could be viable. And I really think we're in a process of continuing to evaluate that, and all I can say is conversations are being held, and people are working to try and make it happen. And I would love to come back. If I have the opportunity to make another one of those, I would in a heartbeat, because I love working with DNA. I love working with Alex Garland and Olivia Thirlby, and if we get a shot at another one, I'm there all day long. Thank you. Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I just wanted to ask you about Xena Warrior Princess, and what your experience was like on that show, and if you have a favorite character that you played on that show?
Yes. Great. And favorite character would be, I don't know, combination, probably Caesar, I think. I had a fantastic time, thank you. I had a fantastic time. It's like, you know, I often get asked, what are your, what's your favorite character? And it's very difficult to nail it down because they're like your kids. You invest so much time and energy, so there's not one that I sort of like over the other because they both afford me different things to play. But I had the greatest time working on that show, and a lot of the people who worked on that show, from Nyla Dickinson, the costume designer, to the camera techs, to a lot of the other crews, then went on to work on Lord of the Rings. And it was sort of really the first time a show of that kind of production value was shot in New Zealand. I mean, the show looked phenomenal. And for me as a young actor, getting the opportunity to work with Lucy Lawless and see how she really captained that ship was just a huge inspiration, not only for me, but for many other actors in New Zealand. And I often thought of her when I was shooting Almost Human, because I found myself in the same position, and I tried to emulate her style and the way she carried herself and her professionalism. And I'm, you know, the fact that I still get asked about that show really is a testament to her great work and everybody's hard work. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Karl.
Hey, how are you?
What's loud? I was wondering, who's your favorite actor, and have you had a chance to work with him at all, or who's your main inspiration?
Wow. Yeah, you know, I grew up, you know, watching actors like Steve McQueen and you know, Paul Newman and Jack Nicholson, Harrison Ford, you know, I was just always really enamored with films, and yeah, you know, I've had the opportunity to work with really very many wonderful actors, and you know, I would hold Viggo up there as one of the most amazing individuals that I've ever had the pleasure to work with. Truly wonderful, altruistic, smart, funny guy, and I would, when I was shooting Lord of the Rings, I would come on set when I wasn't working and watch him work. And it was really interesting for me as an actor to see him and how he approached his scenes, and just the subtle differences that he would do from take to take, and emphasize different words. And A, he was giving his director choice, but B, he was keeping it fresh and spontaneous for himself. And he wasn't just doing the same thing over and over again. And, you know, and that was one of the coolest things about working on that show. You know, I mean, you know, there was like this, I'm just going to digress off that, this omnipresent Pete Jackson, and you'd be in an adjacent soundstage shooting something, and an AD would come up to you with a walkie-talkie, and it would be Peter Jackson, and he'd say, "Look, hey, that's great what you're doing, try this, try that," and you would. And he was receiving satellite footage or cable footage from what you were doing, or other times you would walk through, you'd shoot 3 or 4 takes, and you'd walk through with like a little clamshell monitor, and so while you're waiting to, you know, show him what you've done, you'd be watching Christopher Lee. and so you go up to Pete, and he's like, "Okay, yeah, that's good. Do you want to try anything else?" He said, "No." And it was just this most amazing, surreal experience. And, you know, again, for me as a you know, relatively young actor, working at that level, working with those guys was, I think it was pretty spoiled. It doesn't get much better than that. Thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Lieutenant, great job. Look at that costume. Phenomenal. That's what I love about these things, the cosplay. You guys just do an extraordinary job.
I know you're a big Trekkie, so I was just wondering if there was any storyline from the original series that you'd like to see in the next Star Trek film.
If I say it, they won't do it. And no one would believe me anyway. Gary Mitchell story. I don't know. I do like the Gary Mitchell story. I like that whole story about a crew member of the Enterprise who, you know, something happens to him and he gets sort of, you know, taken over by an alien entity or whatever, and becomes more and more powerful. And You know, that was one of my favorite episodes. But I have no idea what they're going to do, where they're going to go. But I know it's in good hands. I've got a pretty strong idea about who's going to direct it, and I'm very, very excited about that. And one of the possible places that we are going to shoot it is right here. Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. That'll be great. Unless it's in the winter. I like sun. Thank you for your question.
Hey Karl, how's it going?
Hey, good, how are you?
I'm really good. I was wondering if you could elaborate on the story behind Viggo's goat farm.
Yeah, I was in Spain doing, well, okay, I'll go back. I was fast asleep one night. This was maybe 13 years ago. Fast asleep. The phone goes. It's my agent. Karl, you gotta get on the plane. You can't not get on the plane. I'll buy you some lucky red socks, okay? You gotta get on the plane. If you don't turn up on the plane, the studio's they're gonna flip. You're fired, it'll ruin your career. Please, Karl, I'll buy you some red socks. I'm like, Jenny, what are you talking about? 3 in the morning and you're talking about socks. There's silence on our phone and she's like, Viggo. Viggo Mortensen had called her up in the middle of her night and gone, Jenny, it's Karl. I can't get on the plane. I can't find my lucky red socks. I need an extra 24 hours to go and buy another pair of lucky red socks. I can't get on the plane. And hung up on her. Fast forward 10 years. I'm in Spain doing press for Dredd, and Viggo's in Spain doing press for In Plan. And I'm speaking to the press on the Tuesday, and he's speaking to the press on Wednesday. And this is what you call payback. So I just do my interviews. And then at the end of the interviews, as the reporter's getting up and saying, thank you, nice to meet you, all that, I'd say, just casually, it's like, oh yeah, it's just, I love this, you know, Madrid's beautiful. I've got a day off tomorrow. Yeah, I'm going to go, my friend Viggo Mortensen has bought a farm in Segovia. A goat farm. Yeah, he's breeding goats. He's got 2,000 goats up there. He's making goat cheese. It got reported on the national news. Televised national news. I went out with Viggo that night for dinner, sat down, and just looked and went, goat farm. So he went in to do his press the next day. They didn't want to talk about his movie. They wanted to talk about the goat farm in Segovia. He got so sick of lying and denying that he just started saying, yeah, actually I have bought a goat farm in Segovia. I like the spotted goats because they make sweet cheese and they fart less.
Hi, Karl.
Hey, how are you?
Good. I was asking, how will you manage to pull the Russian accent off in the Bourne film you were?
This was very difficult, my friend. That's not it. I don't know what that is. Snakes. Dates. I don't know. Yeah, that was tricky. Russians do things with their tongue that that didn't come out right. They phonetically pronounce things. I'm going to be very careful not to alienate an entire culture and country right now. It was tricky. I worked with a Russian dialect coach, and sometimes I'd turn up to set and they would give me these whole sort of pages of dialogue, particularly the one when I'm sitting in the car. I've just come back after shooting Marie, and I land in the car, and the guy hands me the money, and I say something like "boring up, choky," but whatever I say, I don't remember, but in Russian. And if you look at it, I've actually, because they gave me the dialogue on the day, I've got my dialogue sellotaped on the back of the car seat. So I'm looking out the window, and as I go across, I'm like, saying my dialogue to him. Tricks of the trade. But I had a great time working on that. It was funny. This other story, I haven't told this before. We were in Berlin, and we were shooting a scene where I just shot Bourne in the back. I raced up in the car, shoot Bourne in the back, and then the Moscow cops come up and arrest me. Well, one of the guys who was playing the Moscow cop was the guy who was my dialect coach. And the way Greengrass works is he likes to shoot fast and loose, and there's a bit of improvising. So I went up to him right before the take, and I said, okay, I need something to say. What can I say here? What can I say? And so he started rattling off. He said, you say FSB, and that, and he gave me some other stuff to say. I was like, okay. So we start the scene. I'm like, FSB! All of a sudden, this guy has just like these monologues coming out. It's like, I don't know what he's saying, but he's just speaking Russian at me the whole time. And all I know is, FSB! So he's like, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, FSB! I got hoodwinked there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, Andrew Garfield, ladies and gentlemen.
I would have thought you would have called up Viggo for Russian lessons. Eastern Promises?
Right, come on, what an awesome performance that was.
So good.
I talked to him about that, and he said that he was one of his sort of objectives was just to drop as many consonants as he could and still have it make sense.
But then he went through those prison tattoos and
he's
the
incredible.
real deal.
Yeah, he totally is.
Speaking of the real deal, you, my friend, everything you've been.
Speaking of the real deal, John Malkovich. Who is that guy?
I've seen everything you've been in. I love Almost Human. It's my favorite TV show, and I want everybody to watch it. Everybody, watch it. The peak of your acting career had to be Cupid.
Might have been the peak of my physique.
And my question is, have you seen Star Trek watches Miley Cyrus's performance at the VMAs?
Sorry, what? Say that again?
Okay, YouTube, Star Trek, Miley Cyrus performance VMAs. So they take clips of the original series, and they're reactions to ship combat or something.
Oh, really?
But it's Miley Cyrus on the screen twerking. You've got to watch it.
Okay, I'm so there. Thank you for that.
That was my question.
All right, thank you. Hello.
So, there's a scene in The Two Towers. Am I too close? Where after you're finished talking to Viggo, you get up on your horse, and then I noticed that your sword falls out of your scabbard.
Oh, really? Oh, they picked that take. I haven't noticed that. Is that really?
Yeah. Yeah, it's just in the lower corner of the screen.
Oh, excellent. Professional.
So, so I guess you didn't know that they used that take. But my question was, what was going through your head in that moment as you were still playing the scene?
To tell you the truth, I wasn't aware. I think that it might have fallen out, and I certainly wasn't aware that it's in the movie. But it's, when you get into those situations, 9 times out of 10 you just keep on going because you don't know where the camera's pointing, or there might be several cameras running, they might be on a tighter shot, so you don't actually break the scene if something like that happens because you just wasted a take, and they could edit in right after that happened or whatever. In this case, they didn't. because you are in hysterics, which does happen. I did this scene, I've told this before, I'll tell you again, I did the scene with Lucy Lawless and Xena. And it's a seduction scene. Caesar, Xena, on a bed. She's on the other side of the bed and then she's looking at me. And she's starting to crawl, sexy, seductive, like a panther. I'm on the other side of the bed and I'm looking at her and Caesar's like, oh yeah. And what is coming towards me is so gorgeous and so divine, I don't want to blink. But I'm wearing contacts. One of them suddenly slips off and I start going, she gets halfway across the bed, she's like, what the hell are you doing? Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, that was our last question.
That's it? Serious? We've got time for more, don't we? We've got some more questions. Let's do a couple more.
Let's take them from the front, so we'll take the microphone.
Take it from where? I take it from wherever. You guys. Ma'am, right down the back. Varco? I'd be open to it. I love working with Vin and David Toohey, and I was actually shooting Star Trek at the time that they were shooting the Last Chronicles movie that came out, the third one, and thankfully they managed to coordinate a day where I could get across to Montreal from LA, and that's what I did. So I went for one day while I'm doing Bones to go and do Varco in that movie. So yeah, if they make another one and they write me in, I'd definitely be up for it. Vin is, as I've said before, just one of the nicest, he's just a great guy and a real professional and so passionate about what he does and so passionate about his fans, and I would love the opportunity to work with him again. Thank you. All right.
Hi, I'm wondering if you could possibly tell us what your favorite place in New Zealand, either a filming location or otherwise, because New Zealand is awesome.
Oh, thank you. My house. There's no place like home. You're all welcome to come and stay in a hotel in the same city. No, please, if you ever get the opportunity, I think as Canadians, you would like it. Because to me, in my experience of living here, there's a lot of similarities between New Zealand and this great country you've got. Definitely, if you need some sunshine, come down around now. Now's a good time for you guys to come, or even like February, March, if you need a break and you can sit on a plane for 12 hours. Come on down, because you're all welcome. Well, except, no. You're all welcome. And as I said, there are many great hotels. I'm not kidding. But no, beaches, sun, surf, fishing, I mean, it's just amazing. And you guys have a great outdoors culture here, and New Zealand's the same way. Thank you.
So you worked on a lot of cool franchises, Xena, Star Trek, Lord of the Rings. Is there any other, and Dredd, of course, Dredd. Yeah, if I want another one. Is there any other franchise, if you ever had the opportunity to just jump on it and be part of it, like any dream project of yours? What would it be?
Maybe. Oh no. Off the top of my head, I would have to say perhaps. I have no idea. I feel so kind of blessed and spoiled because I've worked in so many wonderful franchises, which you just named, and to want more is seems ridiculous. But if I could, Spider-Man. No, not Spider-Man.
How about role then? Is there a dream?
Well, I tell you what, if they make another Blade Runner movie, come on, I'd love to be a part of that. If they turn that into a franchise, yeah, thank you.
Welcome to Vancouver again, Karl. It's my understanding that Billy Boyd and Dominic Monaghan were notorious for playing pranks on people on the set of Lord of the Rings. What's the best comeback to them that you were able to pull off? If they played a prank on you and you got your revenge on them, what was your best revenge on Billy and Dominic?
They never pranked me. Never got me. So I never had to get them back. Yeah. Thank you for your question. Sorry.
Hi, Karl.
Hey, how are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
I was wondering, a lot of us know that on the set of The Lord of the Rings, many people suffered some pretty nasty injuries. Orlando his ribs, Viggo his toes, etc. I was wondering if you ever suffered anything of the like.
I had an unfortunate incident where I had to do a sword fight after lunch. That's not a good idea. But I got off pretty unscathed. But I must say I witnessed some pretty touch and go moments. One of them was a scene that it was, I believe, in Return of the King, where all of the Rohirrim come out of Edoras and we're on our way to Gondor, and there were quite a few of us on horse. I mean, there was at least about 200 people on horseback, and they had a couple of the hobbits doubles on these little white ponies, and so we're all in formation, we're riding along, and all of a sudden I just look, and this pony with this little hobbit on it just bolts past. And I'm smiling, but it was really horrific. And then one of the guy who was, I shouldn't be laughing because it was frightening because there were rocks all around. Like we're in a sort of a field with rocks. And this poor stunt double lost control of his horse. And he ends up falling off and bouncing and rolling. Yeah, whoa. Bouncing and rolling, and thankfully he was okay, which is why I can laugh about it now, because it looked kind of funny. But it was very, very touch and go. It was very late. He just smashed his head on the rock, and it would have been good night, nice. But for me, no, nothing like that too bad happened on that. Although I've made a few movies, and I've injured people before. Accidentally, I was making a film here in Vancouver, which shall remain nameless, and there's the scene where this guy on a horseback comes up, and I jump on top of him. He falls off his horse, and it's all in mud. And as I get up, I've actually got mud all my eyes, and I can't see. I shake it out, but I still can't see very well. And I've got this rubber sort of dagger, hard plastic, and I go to stab him. I'm supposed to stab him like right there, between his arm and his chest. I got his arm. Oh, sorry, mate. So that cost me a bottle of whiskey. That did pleasantly still, but hey, he's got a tale to tell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, this will be the last question.
No. The next question will be the last question. This one here. Correct.
Hi, Karl.
Hey, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Thanks for coming out to Vancouver. My question is, what was the scene that was the most fun for you to film in either of the Star Trek movies?
Oh wow, thank you. Oh, that's a great question. Well, there's a few. I'll name two. One of them was the introductory scene for Bones, which I just really loved. I mean, to me, the language in that, was it just Roberto Orsi and Alex Kurtzman, the writing in that, to have a line like. Space is full of disease and danger wrapped in darkness and silence. And the other one would be, I think, this is one of the scenes on on the bridge with Spock. I believe where he's just kicked Kirk off the ship, and I think it was in that where I say, "Are you out of your Vulcan mind?" I think it was that one, but I enjoy doing that too, because anytime I get an opportunity to spar as McCoy against Spock, or with Kirk there is one that I love and relish. So let's hope for more of that. Ladies and gentlemen, you've had a wonderful audience. Thank you so much.